Okay, guys. This is week 1 of the new experiment. Spoiler, so far, a success. I'm liking what we're doing here. We'll see if this keeps up or not. Toothless is being strange. Um, so, it's been an interesting week. I think this is the 10th, so we kind of started on, what was it, the 2nd, I guess? Yeah, something like that. But whatever. I have books I need to like back review, and I'm only doing a little bit at a time because if I try to do them all at once, A, it's going to be overwhelming for you guys, but B, it's going to be overwhelming for me because I didn't review it because Goodreads still hasn't fixed my sidebar, and it is how I keep track of what I'm reading as I'm reading it. It's how I give updates. It's how I do everything, and not having that has really messed up. It is part. Neville, what are you doing? It is part of the reading issue. I mean, most of it was I didn't have time, but on top of it, I had no way of, I mean, yes, I've got my journal, but it doesn't work the same way. And so, yeah, it's been a mess. I want them to fix it so bad. I'm going a little crazy, and they said it could take a few months. Well, it's been since March, I think. So I'm going to email again and say, hey, yo, have you forgotten about me? Because I'm over here wanting to use your platform and, get books recommended to people who may just possibly buy. And since, guys, Goodreads is owned by Amazon, they want people buying books. If they want people buying books, they got to be able to have people recommending books, right? Yeah. So anyway, been a fun week. I drove down on, I guess it was Thursday night to Ontario to drop my daughter off, and on the way back I started listening to a new book. Well, no, that's not true. That is a lie from the pit. Okay, so I was going to listen to a new book. It's by Sarah Hanks. It's something on strange waters. It's part of the Time Sailor series. So far, loving it, just saying. But on that day, I was like, no, I'm in the middle of a mystery. Dad Burnett, I need to finish my mystery. So my first book is that finished mystery. It is Murder in the Scottish Highlands by D. MacDonald. And it was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. Good book, good mystery. Not amazing out of this world stuff, but it was solid. It was a lot of fun. I liked getting to see kind of a different side of Scottish life, small village, even today, and, what are they doing? How are they surviving? All those fun things. But in this one, we have Allie is from Edinburgh, and she is a widow. I think she's 65, 67. I don't know. She's under 70 and over 60. We're going to go with that. Anywho, she bought this old malt house and turned it into a B&B. She's, just was tired of city life, wanted something new, had always been much more adventuresome than her husband's been gone for 7 years, I think. So she's just ready for something new. Can you blame her? I don't blame her. So she wants something new. She's ready to do this and says, okay, we're going this route. And from that, she has a guest who is an American who is there to research his family history. This American is convinced that he is the actual rightful heir to some earldom nearby. The actual earl who is there today is obviously going to be a suspect when this American dies. I mean, all of that is in the synopsis. I'm not giving away spoilers. But who are the other suspects? What's going on? Right away, I figured out who did what. It was really early. It's like the minute something happened, I was like, okay, this person did it, and this is why, and this is how everything happened. And I was right. However, someone else dies. And then I was like, I don't know how this fits in with I'm lost. I had no clue. It was good because then I get to have this other stuff. I wasn't wrong, but on that second murder, I didn't know who, what, how, where, what is going on. How does this fit in? How does this relate? And that was a lot of fun. What I loved most about this book is it taught me what I love or don't love about romance in mysteries. So in some cozy mysteries, romance, it's like it's a co-subplot. That it is a romantic cozy mystery as opposed to a cozy mystery with romance. What I mean by that is I really see three types of romance in mysteries. Either one, the author wants to write a romantic book. They want romance in the book, and the mystery is the style of book they want to write, but they got to have the romance because they like both. So they put it in as a subplot, and it becomes kind of like romantic suspense where it's kind of equal. There's those. Those are the kinds of romance in mysteries that I don't like. Then there's the kind of romance that I really like, and I learned this from this book. The romance I actually like in the mystery is where the romance messes with the solving of the mystery. If the romance is a deterrent to figuring out the mystery, if it is a red herring, or if it blocks something, or if it sends your brain in the wrong direction because of what it does, if it creates that barrier of some sort, that's when I love romance in a mystery, even if the romance isn't a failed romance. I mean, that's a really big trope that I don't like. I don't like that failed romance in a mystery where it's like, it looks like it's going to be romance, and then at the end it's not because that was actually the bag. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Don't like those. I like it when you've got a sleuth who is being distracted, whether intentionally or not. Extracted. Yes, he's being extracted. Where the sleuth is being distracted by the romance, either because their mind isn't in the game or because this other person has opinions that aren't meant to distract. They are just, distracting or whatever, but it is affecting the effective solvent. That's fun. It is affecting the effective solving of the mystery. Love those romance. And then there's the romance that I don't want to say I tolerate, but I don't mind. It's nice. It's not nice. I don't care. But as long as romance has an effect on the solving of the mystery, maybe it helps. The romantic interest is someone who actually helps solve it. Somehow they know the right person to talk to, or they unwittingly take the person to a place where the person catches something and starts figuring out, and it starts setting off things, whatever. If that romance actually aids, whether maybe it's just that they become co-sleuths, okay, I'm good with like the Flora Steels, that, Jack Harrington, that they become kind of co-sleuths, and there's becomes this big romance, whatever. Okay, same thing. I'm okay with those. It's not what I'm looking for, but they don't bother me. What bothers me is when it's only there because the author wanted a romance. And that's fine for the author. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's just not what I enjoy. And I never really realized why sometimes it's kind of like me in the rom-coms, figuring out that I like the comedy and the banter and all the stuff so much that I don't care that it's romance. It's kind of like that with this. When I learned how romance doesn't bother me, because for years I couldn't figure it out. It's like, why is it bugging me in this one and not in this one? Well, this book, Murder in the Scottish Highlands, helped me figure it out. So I really almost gave it an extra star just for that. But I decided that wasn't really going to be helpful to someone going, is this a book I want to read? Because that is just like, well, I got to do math. And when we read, we're not reading for math. So I didn't add an extra star, but I almost did because it was that cool. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the Polifaxes. I've been listening to a few Polifaxes. Sorry, I've got something in my eye today. I don't know. I think something is in the air. But okay, so I've been re-listening to the Mrs. Polifax books. I got all the way through the Golden Triangle, and then I made myself stop. I think the next one is the Whirling Dervish, which is a lot of fun actually. But there are some other audiobooks I want to listen to. I've just gotten Rosanna M. White's the Yola Book of Flood book, and I have obviously this one by Sarah Hanks, and I've got a Katie Powner I want to listen to. I have quite a few others, and I'm waiting now for the Christmas. I'm like something about Scrooge in the Homefront Sleuths. So and there's a pretty soon, I think maybe even this week. I think it might be this week. There's another secret detective agency, which I'll be talking about when I get to those reviews that I haven't gotten to yet. Listen to lots of books that I haven't reviewed yet. I was looking at my stats on Goodreads, and it's like, you're 42 books behind. I'm like, what? Because no, I haven't been reading physical books, but I have been listening to a boatload. So I'm like, how is this possible? Well, this is how, because so many of them I haven't reviewed. Why haven't I reviewed them? Because Goodreads is messed up. Hi, how you doing? All right, so I finished 6 books approximately so far in November. I think one of them I might have finished like the last day or two of October. I'm not sure. We're just gonna go with it as if I finished it so far in November. This one is C.S. Lewis's Letters to Malcolm, chiefly on prayer. It's not, the entire book isn't on prayer. If you can see, I have a lot of tabs. The ones up here and a couple of these are ones that I really want to share things. But this book taught me a little something about myself. So C.S. Lewis, Malcolm wasn't a real person. C.S. Lewis wrote this book because he wanted to explore thoughts about prayer, but he didn't want to write one of his typical books, one of his theological books on a subject. He wrote books, he wrote essays on stories and on other worlds and on joy and suffering and lots of different things, but he didn't feel qualified to write about prayer. He was still trying to study and understand. So what he did is he created a fake correspondence with a fake person to just kind of on the page work through some of his thoughts about prayers and the kind of objections or rebuttals or even agreements that someone might have with him, and then how he might or might not agree with that person, all those things. Stickers, Bakehead stickers. Because of that, it got me thinking, and actually I think this might be a great way for my brain to work through some of these things myself. So when I think in the future, when I'm trying to work out what, if I were going to do prayer, let's say, I might create a friend and start writing about my where I'm struggling with prayer, why I feel like it is important, where I see it in scripture, and how no matter what I see, it's there. I feel like I'm not really getting the gist of it. What am I missing? What are some things, all that. I can explore it through a letter, because I do that in writing and in speaking. I mean, I get in the car and I'm, running errands around town, got to go put a check in the bank, got to go over to my daughter's house and water her trees, got to, go grab something at the store and then fill up with gas and then come home. The whole time I'm driving, a lot of times I'm talking to myself. Sometimes I'm dictating a book. Okay, true. But other times I'm working through thoughts that I have. It's how I worked out the idea. I'm not the only one who's ever come up with the idea, don't get me wrong, but it's what I worked through when I realized that the more I let myself grumble about something, the more likely I was to grumble. So I was talking about it in the car to myself as if I was explaining to someone else my struggles. And as I was talking about it, I was talking as if I had worked through and solved the problem and what steps I went through to solve that problem. And in doing all of that, I realized that the reason I kept grumbling was because I let myself grumble in the first place. That is the kind of thing that I work through in the car. I work through it as if it was already done. But I think this, with the letters and all the things, is going to be another way of doing it in a more purposeful way, and a way that I can look back on. I mean, with me just rambling in the car, I can't look back on what I came up with in case there was something that I didn't realize was actually what I needed. I may not have realized that whatever I said is what I really needed. So having it written down might be a good thing. So, just for what it's worth. But on prayer in here, there's a lot of really good stuff on prayer. He's talking about to pray successfully without words, one needs to be at the top of one's form. Otherwise, the mental acts become merely imaginative or emotional acts, and a fabricated emotion is a miserable affair. And he goes on to talk some more. My mistake was what Pascal, if I remember rightly, calls error of stoicism. Think we can do always what we can do sometimes. And I have a note that I wrote in the side, and it's like, this applies to so much of life, right? So I thought that was really, really good. I can remove this because I already have, I'm just going to actually, instead of getting rid of it, I'm just going to move it over there. But that, Okay, so this next one, my brain immediately went to Facebook and other online forums like Twitter or whatever. I wonder what C.S. Lewis would think about it. You know, how when he had been a Twitter guy, I think he'd have been more like Twitter or whatever, or Substack than Facebook. But it says, discussions usually separate us. Actions sometimes unite us. And at first, I pushed back against that, but then I thought about how often people have a discussion on Facebook. They're going through whatever it is that they're going through, and then they, at the end, people who were friends are no longer friends. But if those same two people had been in the same apartment building, working together on something and having that same discussion while they're doing so, and I don't think that's what he means, but my brain is going here. A lot of times, seeing the facial expressions, hearing the tones of voice, seeing that someone is showing love in action, so words that wouldn't feel lovely on a screen or loving on a screen, they see that there is love behind those words because they see the actions of love in this person, and suddenly what might have been divisive if it had been on a screen isn't, because they see the person behind it in person and in action. And so I think he might have a point there. I thought it was pretty cool. There was this really cool poem in here. It's rather short, so I don't know who wrote it, but I almost suspect that Lewis did. They tell me, Lord, that when I seem to be in speech with you, since but one voice is heard, it's all a dream, one talker aping two. Sometimes it is yet not as they conceive it, rather, I seek in myself the things I hope to say, but lo, my wells are dry. Then, seeing me empty, you forsake the listener's role, and through my dumb lips breathe, and into utterance wake the thoughts I never knew. And thus, you neither need reply, nor can. Thus, while we seem two talkers, thou art one forever, and I no dreamer, but thy dream. I love it so much. I'm like, so good, so good. Anyway, I'm trying not to read all the things. It's so hard because there's so much good in here. This little book, there's a lot in this little book. As you can see, I need to do some trimming. Haven't gotten to that yet. So anyway, all that, and that's all we've gotten through. Gotta move along. Okay. Also, got my April book, Read Your Bookshelf Challenge book done. Year of Flowers by Suzanne Woods Fishers. There are 4 novellas in this collection. And so there are basically, years ago, I'm gonna say a decade. It might have been a little bit more, not sure. But let's go with a decade. These 3 teenagers worked for a woman who ran a flower shop. And they were all very good friends. They had, each had personal issues, whatever. And something big and horrible happened. We don't know what that is until into book 2 or 3 in here. But something terrible happened. They all scattered and they haven't talked to each other since. And then we're getting them in present day. We get to go back into the past. Okay, I'm not gonna say we don't. It is a bit of a split time, but for the most part, we get them today and how they're processing and how basically a resolution to all this is going to come together. I mean, that's the point of the book, right? The book is a collection of novellas, so it's got one overarching theme, reunite, forgiveness, all the things. But so the first book we have, I think her name is Jamie. Don't quote me on this. And Jamie is in New York City. She's working for a fabulous event planning company. And it has kind of a thing for her boss who may or may not have a thing for her. She's not 100% sure. She thinks so, but then maybe not. And when something goes really wrong with a wedding, she takes off because she has just gotten a letter from that owner. Come back, she takes off, and that's about all you get. You kind of get that from the synopsis, so I'm not really giving away spoilers. I didn't actually enjoy that one that much. To me, that was barely a 3-star story. It was just okay. I didn't dislike it. There were things I really liked about it, but it was just kind of like, okay. So I was a little concerned. I love Suzanne Woods Fisher. And with that, I was like, Book 2 comes along. I'm trying to remember which one's which now. I don't want to get them mixed up. Book 2 comes along. Oh, yes. Claire. Okay. So the second book is about Claire. Claire is one of those people. She's kind of like my number 4 daughter. She says what she thinks. No holds bar. Her opinion is right, and she'll make sure that you don't have any doubt about that. And she's a little more abrasive than number 4 daughter. Number 4 daughter has learned to temper that some. You kind of have to when you're in HR. But she's just, I loved her. I think a lot of people probably actually wouldn't like her. They would much prefer Jamie in the first book, who was just really sweet and wonderful. But I loved Claire. I thought she was fun. I liked that she knew what she was going for in life and that she wasn't going to, basically play a game to gain an end, all the things. And she had a situation at that same time. Everybody, there was one overarching problem that scattered them all, but there were little nuances for each person in that problem. And for Claire, hers was pretty bad. And she wasn't real, she was pretty broken. And so, getting that letter saying all is forgiven, come back, she's like, but she doesn't really have anywhere to go. So she has no choice. She's got to go back. So in the third book, there's Tessa, who, the one gal is a floral arranger for this events planning company, and she is phenomenal. She's winning contests, doing the things. This other gal, Claire, she is running a florist shop. She's planning on taking over from the owners when they retire. She's got goals, and she is working them hard. Tessa comes from money, and her parents are thinking she's kind of a little strange because she likes to do things like she buys a field and she plants it and she's going to turn this worn out, just dead farmland into, it's only an acre, but she's going to make it a flower farm and she's going to sell at markets and she's going to become, this is going to be her thing. And she gets someone to help her amend the soil and work hard to get it going. And she is making it a success and everything starts falling apart. All kinds of ways. And I'm not going to say much because that would much more than that. And you've got some terrible spoilers in there. So she ends up going back when she gets her letter. So now they're all in the same place. They're all kind of trying not to interact, but they kind of can't help it. And we've got to deal with what happened, where it went, what's going on, all the things. And it turned out to be an amazing book. The other 3 stories, I gave 5 stars. Loved them, loved them, loved them. First one, I still I really tried, even once we know what happens at the end and everything, I went back and it just still didn't grab me. I can't be 100% certain that it's the story. It absolutely could be me, but yeah, I just didn't really enjoy it. And so I kept it and gave the whole collection 4 stars. I'm making a mess over here. So there's that. Another Side of Sunshine. I don't know if I've talked about this or not. I'm going to assume I haven't because I don't feel like I've talked about actual books. This is the first book in the Reen and Joni mysteries. They showed up at the beginning of Time After Time book. But they showed up in the first chapter. Absolutely loved them. One of the best first chapters I've ever read. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I told Kay, I said, you need to turn them into a middle grade mystery series because it's awesome. And she did. So we have 2 books. I don't have the second one yet. Another Side of Sunshine is the first one. And in this one, her dad is a professor at I think it's Midwestern college. Her mother died when she was really young. There's a housekeeper. So a hint of Nancy Drew going on there with that part. But so they find out that there's a time capsule that's going to be opened. And at the same time, a puzzle in there that people need to figure out to find the clue to the next puzzle, whatever. And it basically becomes a treasure hunt. And Reen is convinced that she's been planning on writing a book because she wants to become rich and famous. But this'll do. She'll just become rich and famous because she found this treasure and life is going to be grand. So they open this time capsule and they get the clue. The clue doesn't make any sense to her at all. And so they're working on it. It's for people under the age of 18. So they're not competing against adults per se. And, she's got friends who are, working with and against her. And there's all kinds of, struggles there. But what was really cool that I really liked about how Kay did this, these kids are learning about the past and about today in different ways. They didn't, there's no Google, back when this, thing back in 1980 something, I don't remember, 82 maybe, 84, somewhere in there, when they sealed up this time capsule, they didn't have the internet, so they can't just go searching for the answers on the internet. So to find answers, they end up in the library. They're looking up stuff. They learn how to use microfiche, and that right there was really cool because this is totally unheard of to them. What is this sorcery here? And then there's another part where math, higher math, has to be used to figure out something. And it is great because kids reading are just getting a puzzle, they're getting the story, they're getting fun. But subtly, they're also getting why we learn things like algebra and geometry and stuff. Why library science is important, why research, sometimes requires us going to things that aren't familiar, that it's not all on Google right now. Humanity's history is not all on Google yet. So, all those old newspapers and things, we sometimes have to go on to, microfiche or, back into some crazy archive or whatever. So she really did a great job of showing all that without it being heavy and monotonous. The faith content in here is natural to just a family, and it's not overbearing. It's realistic. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. We need more mysteries like this, and I'm really excited that I've got the next one coming because I want to read it. Oh. All right. Once for Yes. Just finished this a few days ago. Okay, so Once for Yes is by Ali Millington, the gal who wrote Olivetti. Olivetti's the one that had the sentient typewriter who communicated to help them figure out what was going on. In this one, I can't remember this girl's name to save my life. I know her sisters' names are Fifi, Josephina, and Lena, but I can't remember our main girl's name. Prue. Okay. So in this one, Prue lives in an old building. I think it's the Oldenburg. And she's, she used to spend a lot of time with her sister Prue. And then obviously some sort of tragedy struck. You get this from the synopsis, so it's no big deal. It has very, very similar, almost to the point where it feels like it should be a one note, where we have a sentient thing, typewriter building, who communicates with a member of a family who is struggling with some sort of problem. Same thing. But the stories are not the same at all. So, and I realized the Ali Millington has a really neat magic system worked out for her books. It's not complicated. It's not, a big, science fiction, how the world works kind of thing. No fantasy, Harry Potter world with all the, it's not complicated. It's very simple. When these sentient items communicate, it has to be in a way that item could communicate. We don't have singing wardrobes like in Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there. So in here, she is really struggling with the loss of her sister. We don't know what happened. She doesn't know what happened. We don't know why. We just know that the sister is no longer there. At the very beginning, I didn't know if the sister had, gotten taken away by Child Protective Services, or if she had died, or if she had, gone off to camp alone, or, to boarding school, or she's in some rehab program. I didn't know where the sister went. But I know she's gone, and then you find out it pretty quickly that the sister is gone. She is dead, but they're all grieving in different ways, and they're all hurting, and at the same time, with a bit of a feel of the Vandebleekers, the building gets slated for shutdown, and the building doesn't want to be demolished. Everybody has to move. It's going down. And that building doesn't want that to happen. She doesn't want it to happen. It's the last place that she spent with her sister. She doesn't want to leave. And so it's all about bringing the other residents together, all the things. But what was really neat about it is that, most of these stories, you got the big bad developer coming in to destroy the building, and everybody rising up against him, and whether they win or not, you walk away feeling righteous about this horrible person. Well, this one kind of shakes that up a bit, and that was really cool. Loved the book, gave it 5 stars. It's really interesting. I might like Olivetti a little bit better only because it's a typewriter and it speaks to my soul, but I think this might be a better book. For what it's worth. I loved it. I can't wait for more from her. I hope she continues with this vein because it works. It works really well. All right. Then I finished The Nature of Small Birds by Susie Finkbeiner. In this one, you've got, it's a multiple split timeline of a family who adopted one of the children who came over in, I can't remember what it's called, but they brought kids over from Vietnam in 1975. This family adopts one of the children, becomes part of the family, and then, as part of it, then she wants to learn more about her, eventually decides she wants to learn more about her family and what happened, and, how it affects each other. What the family is going through, what changes, what it, one child in the family, like the oldest daughter, perceives that life is this way for this, adopted sister, because that's how it is in her mind. But the adopted sister has a totally different, side of it. And it's not that they are at odds, but together they complete a picture. We all have our own perceptions, and it was truly beautiful. There was only one spot that I marked, not because there weren't lots of spots to mark, but because I really couldn't stop reading to mark it. But this one just happened to come. I always stop at the, in intervals of 5. So it was 35. So I was stopping reading for the night. And that's why I had a moment to mark it. But it says, if all I've done with this one life is be a son, husband, brother, dad, grandpa to these remarkable people, that's good enough for me. And I'm like, yes, absolutely yes. All the yeses. So The Nature of Small Birds, obviously it's Susie. It's going to be 5 stars. I knew it going into it. One of these days, one of my absolutely, I have no doubt about authors is going to shock me. But this is not that day. I just knew it was going to be amazing, and it was. So that was really cool. And finally, I finished A Light at the End of the Woods by Carrie Brownell. And this is, guys, okay. I read the first 5 chapters. Loved them. Put the book away, pulled it out the next day. I was going to read another 5 or 10. Read the next 5. And it wasn't that I disliked them, but I didn't have that same pull into them. And I went, uh-oh. And I put the book away, went in the house, made my, midnight meal, came back out, and I read another 5 chapters. I'm pretty sure it was that night that I read the next 5 chapters. I just went ahead. And by then I was hooked again. And so I don't know if my brain just wasn't engaged, if they were just a little slower. I don't know. But from then on, I had no problems. I never wanted to stop reading after that. So I'm almost thinking it had to be me as opposed to the book. I probably should have made my meal before I started reading it. I probably had already been reading a few books, and I was hungry, and that's my guess, but I don't know. All I know is that somewhere in that next 5 chapters, I was struggling a little bit. Not that it was hard to read or that it was boring, but it wasn't as engaging. I'm gonna go with that. I would have put it at 3.5 to 4 stars for those chapters if the whole book had been like that. Okay, so it wasn't like it was bad. But anyway, so what we have is a family, father, mother, older sister, I think she's about 15, younger brother, I think he's 11-ish, 10, 11, somewhere in there. And like many older sister, younger brother scenarios, she used to play with him a lot. Now she doesn't. She likes to, stick, kind of hold back and read. She's packing to leave, and only chooses 3 books to take on holiday. They're in England, leaving Oxford for the woods. One of the 3 books she takes is a D.E. Stevenson. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like this girl. And I did. I really loved 3 out of the 4 characters. Before I get into which character I didn't actually like, and that's not a bad thing, I'm just saying. Someone finds out that they are going on holiday and contacts them about renting this cottage. They go to the cottage and it's perfect and they love it. And then strange, bizarre things start happening, and their riddles are involved and totally confusing things. And they've got to work it out. At the same time, we're getting bits of the story of Lady Jane Grey. And these 2 are going to meld into this book. They're going to learn more of the story of Lady Jane Grey. The father's a historian, so he knows a lot. All the things. Okay. I'm going to put this book down because it's kind of heavy. Here's the deal. The mother. I really didn't like the mother. I have a feeling that in town, just, talking to her after church, having her over for tea or for them over for a meal, I would totally enjoy her. But as a mother in a situation where things get a little creepy, I didn't like her. She annoyed me to no end. And I think that's okay. I don't think we have to like characters to love their impact in the book. And so it's okay. I would never, exactly as she is, I would never even consider dropping a star. I don't think I need to like her. Okay, I'm just putting that out there. But, you know, there's this creepy old lady. Mom freaks out. Mom is, you know, just kind of falling apart and panicking over this gal. And I'm like, seriously? Buck up, woman. You've got kids who need you to have a backbone. Quit it. I mean, I wanted to smack her so bad. But, yeah, there are a few times that I really wanted to shake her and say, get over yourself. You've got kids who need you to be with it, you know. And she wanted, and don't get me wrong, she wanted to leave. She didn't consider the situation safe. She wanted out of there. I 100% agreed with her. 100%. If we had been there and the decision had been left to me, and a couple of times Dad pretty much leaves the decision to her, and she finally, you know, quits quivering long enough to say, well, maybe we can stay, you know, until tomorrow, or maybe, well, let's see what happens with this first. You know, I mean, just, I'm like, seriously, woman, I just want to smack you. In that case, if my husband had said, well, what are you going to do? Should we stay? Should we leave? I'm like, we're out of here. Let's go. And we would have just been gone. I would have been wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would have been wrong, but I would have been in this doesn't feel safe, and I don't care what we spent to get out here. I don't care that we will spend our vacation in our own home. Why are we making foolish decisions? You know, and it does feel like a foolish decision to stay. Okay. I just had to put that out there. It's not that I disagree with what decision she would make. I disagree with how she did it, because she just was just running on emotion and not being strong when she needed to be. And sometimes you just have to buck up and deal with it and fall apart by yourself later. You don't freak your kids out. You just don't. I'm fine. Everything's fine. And I will concede that sometimes people probably can't help it. Like me, a child vomits, I'm going to vomit. There's nothing I can do about it. I do not have that control. It is possible that there are people who can't control the abject fear in cases like that. And if that's the case, then I'm wrong. But it doesn't mean that I like the character. So with that in mind, this book feels very much like an Elizabeth Goudge to me. And here's why. You do have the history that you get in Elizabeth Goudge. In my opinion, the author does it better. She takes us back to, Elizabeth Goudge is usually having you living in the time. Here we're going back in time. The historical sections are much shorter. They are not, Goudge wanted to give us every little bit of the remotest bit of history connected that she possibly could. We're talking great, fire hose, guzzling historical facts, as she's just, all the research, she's just downing you. It can get, I love Goudge, but it can get to be a bit much. This book doesn't do that at all. We get exactly what we need for the story and a little bit to whet our appetite, but we don't get lots of, heavy duty, just overdoneness, which is nice. It is also like Goudge in how the faith is presented. It's very matter of fact. It's not, we don't have the family sitting around, doing family devotions together every night. I don't even remember if they talked about praying. But faith is just, it's very matter of fact. Here's the church. This is what they believed. This is what they did. Catholic versus Protestant, how that was being argued at the time. We both get it from the historical perspective and the present perspective, considering the historical perspective. But it's not a which side is right. It's a this is what it was. And it kind of leaves it there. And then it just, I don't know. It's just like sometimes it's when people are trying not to drown you in faith content, it's almost like they apologize for the little bit they put in there by the way that they put it in there. Randall didn't. She just put it in there and you can deal with it. And I loved it because it's just there. And then that's it. And then the other Googe-like element is there is that little bit of magical realism going on. And it's minor, but where it is phenomenal. It is so well done. Loved it so much. I have another book of hers that I have not read yet. It's going to have to get bumped up because I have a feeling I'm really going to like it. You know, this is one of the best middle grade books I've read in a very long time. Loved it so much. I think we need more by her. Yes, please. And faster, if you don't mind. So there's that. Right now I am about, how many chapters in on this one? I am at chapter 10 on the Victory Party. Really enjoying it so far. We have our murder, and you know, I have no clue what's going on. Not that I don't understand the story, but as far as who's doing what and where, we don't have enough yet. I haven't figured it out yet. And this is about somewhere between here and the next 2 or 3 chapters is about where in most books I have a pretty decent idea. No clue. So we'll see what happens with that. Looking forward to it. I almost finished this one tonight. I was really having fun. I just wanted to keep going. I got here and I was like, well, I'm just going to finish this chapter. And then I kept going because I was really enjoying it. I was like, I'm just going to finish this book. So I kept going into this next chapter. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not absorbing. I had started to feel like I wasn't absorbing. So I actually backed up and went a few pages back to where I really knew I had caught quite a bit. And I stopped because I don't want to read through it too fast. Life Together, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, talking about Christian community. So very good. Okay, so these are the 2 books that I'm, yikes, focusing most on this week. But after those, I have a few. So first up, I pulled a few books out. First up, I have 5 more of my Read Your Bookshelf Challenge books that I need to finish. I'm going to start, I've already put this bookmark at chapter 5. I'm going to start Where the Blue Sky Begins by Katie Powner. It's supposed to be about space and space. So I went with that. So Where the Blue Sky Begins. When confident and handsome Eric Larson is sent to a rural Montana town to work in the local branch of his husband's financial company, he's determined to exceed everyone's expectations, earn a promotion, and be back in Seattle by the end of the summer. Yet nothing could prepare him for the lesson this small town has in store. At 46 years old, eccentric and outspoken Eunice Parker has come to accept her terminal illness and has given herself one final goal: seek forgiveness from everyone on her bucket list before her time runs out. But it will take more courage than she can muster on her own. After an accident pushes Eric and Eunice together, the unlikely pair is forced to spend more time with each other than either would like, which challenges their deepest prejudices and beliefs. As summer draws to a close, neither Eric nor Eunice is where they thought they would be, but they both wrestle with the same important question: what matters most when the end is near? So, yeah, looking forward to reading that. Another bookshelf challenge book, because like I said, I've got 5. I've got to read 2.5 each month to catch up. So there's that one. And my November Read Your Bookshelf Challenge is What If It's True by Charles Martin. It's food, and I said for thought. So that's the prompt is food, and I went with for thought. So Jesus, who knows her name, steps forward. He is so glad to see her. He missed her. He's been looking forward to this moment for a long time. He chose this road because he knew it wound near her house. Because while her body is battered and torn, it's her heart that's broken. In this moment, Jesus has already healed her body. The fountain of her blood was all dried up. He's calling her forward because he's about to heal her heart. Then, of all the words he could have spoken, he says the one singular word she needs to hear. Daughter. The word echoes inside her, dancing around her insides like a pinball until it comes to rest in that place in her gut where her soul lives, down where her hope is buried. Scripture doesn't say it, but I think Jesus reaches out and lifts her, raises her up in front of everyone else, hugs her tightly while she weeps on his shoulder. He welcomes the daughter back into the family, and then, just so everyone knows and to ensure there is no doubt, no question, he says, your faith has healed you. Somewhere in there, it hits her. I'm healed. It's over. I am what I once was, what I always longed to be. This knowing spreads across her face. I am a child of God. So this one is supposed to be nonfiction, I believe. Categories are religion, Christian life, spiritual growth. If I get done with Life Together, this will be a daily, few chapters every day, 5 chapters probably. And then that really is 2 books plus these. This will get done, and this will get done. And then last but not least, I had 3 others over there that I've decided not to do for various reasons. So I'm already recorded that part, and I'm cutting it out because I don't need it. What is that over there? Oh, never mind. Another book came in. Hi, how you doing? Anyway, so instead I'm going to read A Kind of Spark. This is the middle grade that I think she's autistic. Being different doesn't mean your voice doesn't count. So it says, the witches weren't magic. They were different, like me. Ever since Miss Murphy told us about the witch trials that happened centuries ago right here in Juniper, I can't stop thinking about them. If I were one of those women, I would want someone to remember me. I'm autistic. I see things that others do not. I hear sounds that they can ignore, and sometimes I feel things all at once. I won't let the witches be forgotten because there is more to their story, just like there is more to mine. So I've been wanting to read this ever since. I'm pretty sure Lorna and I found this in Target one day, and we decided it sounded good, so we got it. And then I want to say it's been almost 5 years. When did it come out? Because it would probably have been the year that it came out that we saw it in there, right? 2020. So yeah, probably about 5 years. So I think if I need another book, I'm gonna grab this one. So we only have 1 week down for this new TBR plan. So far, I'm really liking it, and there's a few reasons why I think I might stick with it. We'll see. I'm not promising anything. I'm trying to go through the end of the year to give it a full shot. But I think why I like it is there's really no pressure to pick a good book, if you will. I just second guessed these 3 books. I was like, oh, well, what about this? Or I could do this. And I really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, forget it. I think I'll just grab that one. And the reason it's so nice is that I'm not sitting, when I go to plan a TBR, I'm really looking at, are there challenges I'm doing? What books fit those challenges? What is really, going to give me a big variety, and to make sure, because I am a mood reader, right? And so I'm really looking at, and they're minor decisions, right? Minor pressures, the pressures I'm putting on myself that don't really matter. I can totally ignore them, and I do. But it's still pressure built upon other pressures becomes overwhelming. And that's what I think is really cool about doing this, because if I end up at the end of the week and I haven't read A Kind of Spark, or Where the Blue Sky Begins, or even A Word of What If It's True, who cares? Doesn't matter. Because I'm starting all over next week, and I can continue. I can say, oh, I'm going to keep this one on the list because I want to, or because I've decided that it's important, like the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge is important to me. I want that one. If I do nothing else, I'm doing that one. So where the Blue Sky Begins will probably stay. But I might say, you know what, I didn't read that this week. I think I'm going to swap it out for Cloud Cuckoo Land because I want a different genre, and I'll get back to that the following week. I can do that. And it doesn't, and I mean, it works the same, if you will, as a bigger TBR that I'm just pulling from each week. But sometimes I get a bad feeling about a book that isn't fair to the book. You know, I keep pulling other books and I keep avoiding a book, and then I feel like, well, maybe I really don't want to read that. That's not true. It's totally not true. What's true is that that book isn't really for me right now. But if I'm only choosing at a week at a time, I'm not constantly pushing something aside. I'm just choosing something else. It's a mental shift for me, but it's working right now, and I'm really liking it. So that was a lot of talking, and I have a feeling I have been here forever. Hopefully I can cut a lot out. Meanwhile, I'll be back on Friday. I have it's already filmed. I unboxed that other box, and I'm going to try to insert some of the footage that we took while I was visiting with Ashley and the books that we got. And I think I came home with some books I wasn't supposed to. Oops. Sorry, Shalise. Hi, how you doing? And we'll have to figure all that out later. But that should be here Friday. That's the plan. And I'll see you later. Hopefully you guys are reading good stuff. If one of these books that I have here, A Kind of Spark, What If It's True, Where the Blue Sky Begins, those are the ones I haven't started yet. If one of those you're like, oh, you're going to want that right now. If you know, tell me. I would love to know. And again, I'll see you on Friday.